you're looking for a bright spot, it was Kai Forbath, 57 yards, and I might add, he had yards to spare on that kick. And when he tried it, people were saying, are you crazy? Turned out that it was a great decision. Unfortunately, it was one highlight, and there were very few others as the New Orleans Saints went to Houston to NRG Stadium, and the Texans said NO as they whipped the Saints in convincing fashion. 24-6, the Saints had just 268 total yards, an inept offensive performance, dominant defensive performance by Houston, and the Saints rushed 10 times, the fewest that they've ever had in the Sean Payton area. And of course it was Hoyer having a big day, just another opposing quarterback having his way with the Saints, but we're accustomed to that. We can analyze this, and we're going to, but you can break it down real simply and just tell it like it is. The Saints are not a very good football team. It's that simple. So I don't know what else we need to do. Can we move on to the next segment? Or what?
Absolutely. Let's go.
All right, Brian.
No.
So, I mean, listen, they got whipped in every phase of the game. When you kick 2 field goals and do nothing else, listen, you can talk all you want about the defense and how it didn't change much under Dennis Allen. I thought they actually blitzed a little bit more, and they weren't terrible defensively. They weren't good enough, but they were terrible offensively.
Yeah, you know, Kenny, it's so reminiscent of the 2012 season to me. I mean, you know, they've struggled, obviously, on defense all season long, although they have had stops, okay? And they've shown glimpses that they're not a bad football team. But when Drew Brees and the offense, and they have struggled over the last 3 games, you know, they've been unable to get into the end zone. And if you can't score in this league, with a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback like Drew Brees, they're going to have trouble because they can't stop anybody on a regular basis.
Well, Ricky, when the opponent has the ball for 37-plus minutes, that's an indictment on your offense. The offense couldn't stay on the field, so the defense was left on the field way too long.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, it wasn't a great quarterback they was going up against.
No.
I look at the coach yesterday, how he was arguing at the quarterback and fussing at the quarterback quite a few times for making some bad mistakes, but the Saints just didn't put up no fight. I mean, the first 2 drives they had went right down and scored, and looked like to me the Saints kind of gave up after that.
And Brian, the Saints started Andrews Pete at left guard, and he had a rough game. 2 penalties, gave up a sack. In defensive end, that is not his natural position. That's on-the-job training against a really good defensive front.
Yeah, and look, J.J. Watt's going to embarrass a lot of folks, and unfortunately, Pete was in that mix yesterday. Yeah, Kenny, again, it's kind of the same kind of problems that have plagued this team, even from an offensive standpoint. You know, Drew Brees is running for his life. The running game is kind of erratic. And you take Brandon Cooks out of the mix, they don't have another big play receiver that Drew can really rely on a regular basis. They did a good job on Ben Watson. They took away his little weapons and made him run for his life all game long.
Ricky, you appreciate great defense. It was a pleasure to watch Houston play defense. Their linebackers flew to the ball. Their DBs guarded very, very well. And, of course, as Ricky mentioned, J.J. Watt, he's the best defensive player in the NFL. And if he's not, Luke Kuechly is, who's an incredible player. Those 2 guys, I'll pay to watch them play anytime. They never stop, do they?
Yeah, well, I like Luke because, I mean, he's a linebacker. But J.J. is a bad boy, too. And yesterday, it looked like the Saints had 3 guys on him one time, but the rest of the time, they kind of left him one-on-one, and he was, like, way too much for one guy. You had to always know where he was at, and that was the difference. He put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, and you either had to move the quarterback out the pocket or do something different because he was too good.
You know, Romeo Crennel did a great job, but they've moved J.J. Watt around really the last few years. I mean, you've got to account for him at every position. He exposed Zach Strief. He went after Max Unger occasionally.
Armstead and Pete.
So, I mean, he was hitting everybody.
But he got a couple more good linemen up
yes,
there,
they
too.
do.
I
they
mean,
absolutely
and
do.
Crown, you can see where he was the first pick last year.
Yeah,
He's kind of coming into his own.
He is.
He's getting a lot faster and bigger. And then they got Big Wolfall up there. You know what I mean? They coming strong up front.
That's what it's supposed to look like up front. Well, this was a streak-snapping day where the New Orleans Saints offense was concerned. They did absolutely nothing, and all kinds of streaks snapped in this game. First game without a touchdown since 2005, 155 consecutive games, second longest in the history of the NFL. Drew Brees, his first game without a touchdown pass since 2012, snapped his 45-game streak. and consecutive losses of 14 or more points for the first time for the Saints since 2007, when they opened the season 0-4, as you might recall, and finished 7-9 off of their NFC Championship game appearance. So all kinds of streaks snapped, which I think illustrates, Brian, just how inept they were offensively.
Yeah, Kenny, when you think about this, their defense has come under the gun all season long, and rightfully so. But their offense now has scored 3 touchdowns in the last 10 quarters, all via passes from Drew Brees. You know, they're struggling. They really are struggling. And if this club can't run the ball and protect Drew Brees, they've got troubles.
Well, Brian, I'll tell you one thing I see. I mean, you got a great quarterback like that. You got to surround him with some great players like they did in the past. And now a lot of the guys that they have, these guys getting older, and the offensive line just really is, not one of the top lines in football. Drew Brees needs a lot of help in order to be successful and be good, and he don't have that around him.
He's getting hit way too often, and he's being moved off his spot even when he doesn't get hit, and that's his game, is to sit in the pocket, make his decisions, because if you give him time to make a decision, he'll make the right decision 90% of the time, and he's deadly accurate. He doesn't have that opportunity right now. The streak snapped, but this isn't anything new where the Saints are concerned. This has been more of the rule rather than the exception as we take a look at the Saints' last 30 offensive possessions. Check this out. 3 touchdowns, 2 field goals, 14 punts, a missed field goal. The turnovers, unbelievable. I mean, they have been totally ineffective offensively. Everybody wants to talk about the defense, and it's really become a real epidemic of proportions for this offense, which everybody thought was good as of the game that they won against the Giants and through the first quarter of Tennessee. Since then, Brian, everybody seems to have their number.
Yeah, Kenny, they would like to have a balance, a 60-40 balance, right? 60 pass, 40 run. And if you can't run the ball effectively, look, teams will do this every day. They'll go one-dimensional. They'll make Drew Brees beat you. And really, Drew doesn't have the weapons to win consistently in this league right now.
No, and like yesterday, I didn't see Spiller carry the ball near enough. Nope. Ingram had about 5 or 6 carries, but they just didn't attack the running game yesterday.
You know what? And how many tackles for losses? A lot of times they had defensive linemen in the backfield before guys could even make their moves. You know?
And another thing too, Brian, they realized that the Saints not going to throw the ball deep that much. So a lot of those guys made great plays yesterday, but they was playing from 15 yards in. They weren't thinking about the deep ball as much.
Right. You know, go ahead, Ken. No, you know, and then from a defensive standpoint, you know, I think anybody that expected a lot of changes or a lot of turnaround with Dennis Allen replacing Rob Ryan probably was expecting way too much, because it's the same players. He simplified things. You were looking for more energy, that kind of thing. A little more aggression, right, Kenny, that we talked about.
Well, I thought they blitzed more. I thought they did blitz more in this game, and they got to him once in the process, and I think that's what they have to do, because they don't have the ability to sit back and play coverage. We know this, especially now with Keenan Lewis out for the year. It only hurts things more. Swan's had the concussion problem, so they don't have the cover guys. They're going to have to disrupt things and get after people. I think we're going to see more and more of that, frankly. And, of course, it would help to get people healthy, but that isn't going to happen with Lewis. With Ellerby, who knows? With Hawthorne, who knows? I mean, listen. And, again, we talked about the concussion problem for Swan.
Kenny, I have to chuckle here, guys, because Jarvis Byrd made an interception, his first with the Saints. And at the end, during that play, Brandon Browner gets whistled for a penalty, a block in the back on the return. And I'm going, Lord, you know, you just can't win for losing here. And but you know, congratulations to Jarvis. We need a lot. They need a lot more than just one interception, though.
I thought that summarized things pretty well.
Yeah, it really did.
Bird gets a pick, Browner gets a penalty, right?
Yeah, you know, I see what the problem was yesterday. It was like, bro, these guys just grabbing and holding. You can only chuck a guy 5 yards. You got to let him go. But these guys on down the field, they stood holding and grabbing. They're not going to let you do that.
Well, the 2 penalties on Bro led to the touchdown coming out of the locker room, because, again, after those first 2 drives of the game, the Saints played pretty well on defense. That drive was all about the 2 penalties that gave Houston the chance to score.
Right. Because they grabbing. The guy downfield, he's still trying to go. You got to turn him loose.
Hopkins, there was one play I know you guys saw. There was one play, Hopkins coming off the line, and Browner tried to jam him. And he did a swim move, and Browner just jammed in the air, and Hopkins was down the field. Browner needs to be replaced. I'm sorry, okay? That test is over. and I'm hoping that they make a change in the offseason.
Problem is you invested 3 years and
I
$15
know.
million. So, and again, with Swan banged up, P.J. Williams has never been healthy to see the field. I don't know if you have
Yeah.
any options, Rick.
No, I mean, you don't really have options this year, but, what you got to do now, go back to the drawing board for next year and try to find some good players, some healthy players. I mean, everybody, looked like came through the door this year, been banged up, beat up, and that's what you got to do. You got to take this offseason and get you some healthy guys and get ready to play football for next year.
Premier Honda provides a selection of featured inventory representing new and popular items at competitive prices, such as the 2015 Accord Coupe CVT LHS featured special lease, 0 due at lease signing, $0 for the first month's payment, $260 a month for 38 months. A great deal among many others at Premier Honda here in the East. Check them out. Go to premierhonda.com. Back in a moment to talk NFL football on WHNO TV 20.